This is NC Spin, an unrehearsed discussion on issues of interest to North Carolinians. Now, here is your moderator, Tom Campbell.
Welcome. Each year we like to invite young people to be panelists on NC Spin to give you a chance to hear what they're thinking about and their opinions on the issues of the day. And this week we're pleased to have some of North Carolina's brightest 4-H members as our panelists. Please allow me to introduce them to you. They include Courtney Eckman, a sophomore in high school from Mebane. Reid, a junior in high school from Greensboro. Oshe Pittman, who's a freshman at North Carolina Central University from Duplin County. And last but not least, Alexander Bannister, who is a high school freshman from Wingate, North Carolina. Well, so that our audience can get to know you better, I want to ask each of you to answer the same question, and we'll start in the order that we introduced you. First of all, how well do you keep informed on current events, and where do you get your news information? TV, newspapers, internet, social media, or what? Courtney?
I normally get my just normal stuff from the local newspaper, and when we sit around the dining room table, we usually talk about everything.
Ah, yes, dining room conversation. Samuel?
Likewise, I get a lot of my information from news networks, and current events are often discussed around my family, around the dinner table or in the car and so forth.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Oshe?
I get most of mine from watching our local news station as well as world news. Diane Sawyer in the evening is the go-to spot. I also watch a lot of CNN, especially when I work.
Okay. Alexander?
I usually read the newspaper, and I occasionally use the internet for some research.
All right. All of you are homeschooled, with the exception of Oshe, who, of course, is a freshman at North Carolina Central. So far as it goes, why did your parents or you choose to be homeschooled rather than going to public schools? Courtney?
My family decided that a few years before, like in second grade, that we were going to move to Illinois, and just decided not to go, so just stayed homeschooled.
All right. Sam?
It was actually my parents' choice, and I have to say I love it, and it's been a wonderful experience for me.
Okay. Alexander?
Well, there were 3 reasons for the choice of homeschooling. One was they wanted me to have a Christian education. The second was to draw my heart towards home, and the third was they were able to customize my education.
Good. I want to go around the table, and I'll start, Oshe, with you. Would you consider yourself a liberal or a conservative, a Republican or a Democrat?
I would consider myself a liberal.
Okay.
And simply because they tend to speak more on the lines of the everyday people.
All right.
And have that mindset, and that's the way I think.
Alexander?
I would align myself with more of the conservative because they align with themselves with more of the beliefs that I have.
All right. Courtney?
Probably Republican independent, because some choices I don't agree with and some I do.
Okay. Samuel?
I'm still learning about the different ideologies of the different parties, so for now I'd have to say moderate.
Okay. All right. I'm sure you keep up with what's going on in the state of North Carolina. I think it'd be interesting for our audience to hear. What do you think about the job that Governor McCrory is doing?
Well, he's been in office relatively for a short while, so only time will tell how well or poor the decisions he's making will affect the future.
Okay. Courtney?
I believe that he's doing quite well with what he's given. He's trying to pull us out of debt, and I think that he's doing well with everything that's done.
Alexander?
I have to agree with Samuel. He's only been in office for 10 months, and I think the more he's in office, the more we'll know.
Okay. Oshe?
I feel the same way as both Sam does. He's only been in office for a short time. However, right here lately, he's been doing, in my opinion, a fairly poor job as far as being governor.
All right, let me switch over and let's talk about some other issues. The most talked about stories this past month obviously have centered around the government shutdown and the need to raise America's debt ceiling. The shutdown was prolonged over arguments regarding the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. Samuel, everybody tried to place the blame on the president, the Senate, the House, Who do you think was responsible for causing this government shutdown, and why?
Based off of media perception, publication, and general conversation, I would say that there's plenty of blame to go around all across the Capitol. The reason why I say this is because it's kind of similar to what goes on around my house. It usually takes me and my siblings about an hour or more to try to decide what DVD we want to watch on the weekend. So trying to get hundreds of members of the cabinet and the legislators trying to come on, get on one page on as far as government-funded health care, it's a gridlock.
Well, the Obamacare thing was probably what held up this shutdown as long as it did. I'd like to know y'all's opinions about Obamacare.
Well, from what I could gather, the House of Representatives, the older party of the representatives, they wanted to go ahead and vote for Obamacare.
That's not the question I asked you. My question was about Obamacare. What do you think of it?
I believe it's necessary. I mean, who wouldn't want affordable health care?
Courtney?
I don't like it. I don't think that it's necessary.
Obamacare has added $1 trillion to our debt, so since I align myself with more conservative, I would say cut Obamacare.
Sandy?
From what I've seen and learned on the surface, it seems like it could be a positive outcome for millions of Americans who can't afford insurance.
Well, it raises a basic question, though, and that is, should the federal government or the state government or any government, for that matter, be in the business of providing health coverage for our citizens? What do you think, Oshe?
Yes, they should.
You think they should?
Yes.
Why?
Because look at the middle class, with the people that make too much money to afford Medicaid, to be able to qualify for Medicaid, but don't make enough money to have their own personal insurance. They should be able to have that middleman to be able to provide for their families.
Good answer. Anybody disagree with that?
I disagree. I think that the government has already supported people enough, and I don't think that they need to do anything else.
Okay.
Well, I truly believe that healthcare is in fact a commodity. I don't think it should be a free-for-all necessarily, but I do believe it should be more affordable and accessible to those who need it and can't afford regular health insurance.
So is health care a right or a privilege? You think the government ought to be in that business of providing it for us or not?
Since I'm more conservative, I would say I think the government should get out of our business. I don't think the federal government should have a role.
All right. We're going to take a break and be back in just a minute. You can watch NC Spin anytime you want. Just go to our website, ncspin.com, and click on the YouTube button on the right side of the page. We post each week's show on Friday, so you can view us anytime you like. And while at ncspin.com, be sure to sign up for our free weekly email newsletter, Spin Cycle. And you can follow us on Twitter at NCSpin Tweets. 4 ways to keep the conversation going: ncspin.com, NCSpin on Facebook, and Twitter at NCSpin Tweets, and finally, Spin Cycle. We look forward to hearing from you.
NC Spin will return after these messages.
Fishing isn't just part of my job, it's my life. It's a part of who I am and how I was raised in eastern North Carolina. It's how I put food on the table for my family. It's hard work, but I love what I do. There's something special about knowing that my long, hard days help feed friends, neighbors, and people in North Carolina. It might not be glamorous, but fishing is my life.
The best part about being a member of a Touchstone Energy Cooperative is that it's your Touchstone Energy Cooperative. Learn more about the power of your co-op membership at togetherwesave.com.
North Carolina's Touchstone Energy Cooperatives, looking out for you.
We now return to NC Spin.
For the first time in more than a century, Republicans are leading state government, and we want our panel to react to how well they're doing and give us their views on some of the legislation they passed this year. I want to go around the table and start by asking if you think our state is headed in the right direction or wrong direction, and tell us why you said that. Alexander, I'll start with you.
I think the state is beginning to head in the right direction. I think it might be a little slow, but with the Republicans in there, I think we'll be all right.
Oshe?
I believe that they tend to go in the wrong direction, basically because of the voting act.
Okay. Samuel?
I would say, like I said before, it's still early in the game, and time is going to tell how well their decisions are going to affect North Carolina in the future.
Okay. Courtney?
I'm with Alexander, except I think that they're going in the wrong direction with teachers, that they should be, the hold shouldn't be there for their salary.
Oshe, I was going to ask you to follow up a little bit. You talked about the voting election laws bill. And, of course, the central element of that was the voter ID. Tell me how you feel about having to present identification when you go to the polls to vote. Is that a good idea?
I disagree with it. It is not a good idea because look at the older population. A lot of them do not have an ID. What happens if you get in trouble and you get your license taken away, or you get it, you have to send it into the DMV, and you don't have that ID. We talk about how important it is to vote, how every vote counts, but if you're not able, what do you do? What happens to that vote?
Anybody disagree?
I disagree. I think that there should be a photo ID because they can go back however many times and vote however many times they want. They can get a passport and show the photo ID on there.
Okay. Samuel, one of the things that was discussed during this legislative session, the NAACP particularly, led a group of protests called Moral Mondays. I suspect you probably heard about Moral Mondays. What's your opinion about these protests? Were these guys violating the laws, or was this their constitutional right to oppose government?
Like you said, Mr. Campbell, they were truly exercising their First Amendment, the freedom of speech, religion, and press. So I believe they were truly exercising their right.
Okay. Another one of the pieces of discussion in this General Assembly was over hydraulic fracturing, or fracking as it's known. There are many geologists who believe that we've got large pockets of natural gas under the ground in North Carolina. You probably have heard about this. Environmentalists are worried about all the chemicals that they're going to be using in the process that might pollute the water, but those people in favor of this say that this is going to help keep us energy independent for years to come. Alexander, how do you feel about this drilling, this fracking?
I'm all for it. I believe there is a safe way with our technologies now. I believe there is a safe way to do it without putting tons of chemicals into our water. So I'm all for it.
Anybody disagree with that?
Well, I'll be honest with you. This was actually, I read an article about this being done in another state, and there were some negative outcomes about it, to the point that a man could ignite a flame with his running water. So I say before we subject our beautiful state to something like this, we need to make sure that we have all our research done.
Well, Courtney, they're saying there are also large deposits of natural gas down deep in our ocean, 30, 40 miles offshore. How do you feel about offshore drilling for natural gas?
I don't really like it. I don't think that it's a good idea to go in and possibly pollute the oceans.
Anybody disagree with her on that?
Yes,
All right.
agree.
Next subject. The Cherokee Indians obviously operate a big gambling casino up in the western part of the state. The Catawba Indians recently announced, who, by the way, they're headquartered largely in South Carolina, announced they want to build a gambling casino in Cleveland County. And even though they're not recognized as a tribe here, what do you think about them opening another gambling casino in North Carolina? Is this a good idea, Alexander?
Well, there are some positives. It might create some jobs, but I'm against gambling because I think it is a bad way of spending your money. So I think the bad outweighs the good.
All right. Oshe?
Well, you have to look at it from the job aspect. They're doing it solely to create jobs. And if you can create jobs and allow these people to be able to provide for their families, it's a plus for me.
Courtney?
They don't have they're not recognized as a tribe, so I don't think that it's right to be drilling or be there.
Samuel?
I'm not very familiar with the whole casino and gambling business, but I truly support Native Americans in their endeavors, so I'm all for it.
Well, so what do you think about, we've got this statewide lottery, and recently they announced that they were going to allow online lottery sales for the first time in North Carolina. I'd be interested in hearing your opinions about that.
Well, I think, I know one of the problems they think that if gambling might increase.
Addictions.
Gambling addiction might increase. To me, I believe that it will increase sales because it allows people not to have to leave their homes to go purchase lottery tickets and things like that. But I do not think it will increase their gambling addiction.
I want to be honest with you. I don't play the lottery. I don't intend to. I'm homeschooled. And so far, our school hasn't received a penny from the North Carolina Education State Lottery. So on that vein,
your home hasn't.
Yeah. I don't really support on that vein. But in regards to having it accessible online, I'm not sure how that would work, especially with our young people will be easily being exposed to it.
All right, we're going to have more with our 4-Hers after these messages.
NC Spin will return after these messages.
It's true. Farming is different than it was 50 years ago. We know consumers have questions about how our food is grown today. North Carolina livestock farmers want you to know that they're using the most responsible and caring farming practices to feed our state.
ncanimalag.com.
The North Carolina Medical Society is committed to a healthier North Carolina. We feel as an organization representing over 14,000 physicians that we have a responsibility and an obligation to help our citizens become more healthy. And by doing this, we want to help educate them about ways in which they need to keep themselves healthy through good nutrition, exercise, and maintaining a healthy lifestyle. These ingredients will help not only individual citizens become and maintain a healthier outlook on their lives, but also help contribute to having a healthier state.
We now return to NC Spin.
Hope you're enjoying our conversation with North Carolina's 4-Hers. It's been very informative, very interesting so far. We're talking about issues that took place in our last General Assembly. The legislature repealed the Racial Justice Act that allowed people convicted of capital crimes to appeal their sentences if there was some evidence of racial prejudice. This opened up a great deal of discussion about capital punishment. We haven't executed anybody in North Carolina since 2003. Let me ask you the question, Alexander, should we do away with the death penalty?
I do not think we should do away with it. If people have committed crimes big enough to be have capital penishment, then that's their fault.
I agree so wholeheartedly, because to me, we need to keep the death penalty. However, we need to shrink the length of time that it takes for them to actually go through with it. No one should be on death row for 10 to 15 years before they actually.
Well, a lot of people saying we ought to get rid of the death penalty for that very reason, that the appeal process takes so long. Courtney, how do you feel about that?
I agree with these two that we should keep it if there is a capital offense against them.
Samuel, you going to make it 4?
Oh, well, no. Well, I mean, just because people have appealed for it, that's not to say that it hasn't been, that it's not effective. So I do believe it should stay.
All right. Another big topic of conversation this past year has been immigration. Governor McCrory vetoed a bill that the legislature's passed that made it easier for farmers and some businesses to hire undocumented immigrants. Now, the legislature ended up overriding the governor's veto, saying that the farmers need people to be able to pick their crops. I think our audience would be interested in hearing about what are your opinions about immigration, and how do you think immigration laws might need to be changed? Samuel?
Well, I've always believed in the fact that people, if you want to come to America to enjoy the land of opportunity, I'm all for it. But there should always be a level of accountability. If you want to come here, there's certain protocols that you have to go through in order to be able to obtain citizenship and to be able to have that green card and be proud to be an American. Anybody
disagree with him about the immigration issue? No. Everybody pretty much united on that. All right. Recent reports show that 1 in 4 children in North Carolina live in poverty. What role, if any, do you think the government ought to be playing in trying to help these children that live in poverty? Courtney?
I don't think that the government should have any role in it. Maybe the more charities that have come up can help with this, but no government.
I disagree, because you don't know the reason as to why they're in poverty. The mother could have gotten sick and the father is working a job and he's still not able to make ends meet. You don't know the reason behind that. The government needs to provide food stamps. They need to provide welfare.
The Bible tells us in Matthew 26:11, and history has proven this to be true, the poor you have with you always. So as to the question, should we help them or not? Absolutely. But I don't believe it's just the government's job. I believe that everyone as a community, as a county, as a state, should come together and keep looking for ways to be able to effectively serve those in need. And I truly believe there's a blessing in doing so.
All right, North Carolina was especially hard hit from the recession that started in 2008. I'd like to know what's your opinion. I'm going to go around the table. What's your opinion about how well we are recovering? The statistics show that our unemployment rates are the 5th highest in the nation. So what do you think? How are we recovering from this?
Statistics also show that North Carolina is one of the best states from bouncing back after the what happened in 2008. But what I think is happening is technology is starting to use machines to replace the people.
Okay. Oshe?
I think we're bouncing back as good as expected, as good as we possibly can.
Okay. Samuel?
I know, especially in the Greensboro area, a lot of our major industries have been hit really bad. The furniture market, the agriculture market. So we've been kind of recovering rather slowly. But I believe if we could try to incorporate more small businesses in our local community and allow them to grow, we could slowly be able to pull ourselves out of this hole that we've been in for the last few years.
Courtney?
Slowly but surely, we're coming back.
All right. Final question in this segment. We're growing about 100,000 people per year in North Carolina. That's creating a lot of congestion on our roads. Some of you live in areas where there's a lot of traffic congestion. Some people are suggesting we ought to start charging tolls for riding on our roads like other states do. Very quickly, what's your opinion of this, Courtney?
It hasn't really helped in other areas, so I don't think it would help here.
Samuel?
I'll be honest with you. Driving up Highway 77 up to West Virginia, I always hate stopping by those traffic booths. Yeah, but North Carolina is one of the main veins to the south, so I believe that a toll booth probably would be helpful in keeping our road systems.
I disagree because North Carolina also has one of the highest areas for gas prices. We shouldn't have to pay for gas prices and pay to drive on the highway as well.
Okay.
I have to agree with Oshe. If we're going to pay for toll-free roads, then something will have to be reduced, our gas prices or our taxes on the road.
I got to ask this question because I know some of you have been following the news about all the sports scandals taking place at UNC Chapel Hill and other schools. Very quickly, are we putting too much emphasis on college sports? Do you think we ought to minimize the emphasis on college sports?
Absolutely not, because college sports is what brings in the crowd. They produce the most money within these schools. When the last time have you seen anyone to come pay $25 to see somebody take a math test?
That makes sense.
Well, I have to say, even though sports do bring in the most money, I think there's become less focus on education.
So the academics are taking a second place. Courtney?
They may have given a whole lot of money to bring in, but UNC Chapel Hill has also given $500,000 to have other schools come in and play them.
Yeah.
I believe, I'm all for school sports, but I don't think it should be like an extra special thing. I think it should just be part of the core academic part of the school or wherever you are.
More from our 4-H'ers after this message.
NC Spin is brought to you in part by the North Carolina Farm Bureau. The Farm Bureau and Agriculture. We keep North Carolina growing.
You trust your family physician to care for you and your family. We treasure that trust and are committed to providing the best care possible for all North Carolinians. It's time for Medicaid reform, but not without input from North Carolina's family physicians. Medicaid reform will impact health care for all of us. Tell state leaders you want your physician involved. We need Medicaid reform that's good for North Carolina. To sign our petition of support, visit rnchealthcare.com.
North Carolina is a great place to live, work, and raise a family, but we consistently rank in the bottom third for state health. Poor health choices and inactivity cost our state $54 billion a year, dollars that could be saved through healthier living. We can do better, North Carolina. That's why NC Spin is working with health and community organizations to launch a Healthier NC, an education campaign and challenge to live healthier lives. Join us at ahealthiernc.com.
Welcome back to our special 4-H show. Guys, you're going to be the generation that's going to be running this country in not too many years. I'd like to know very briefly, what would you say to today's adults about how well you think your generation's going to do? Courtney, I'll start with you.
I think that we're going to do well, especially with places like 4-H to help leadership along the way.
All right. Samuel?
I feel like the youth of today is going to do well, but I strongly suggest to the adults, the generation before us, to be able to help us learn and watch and let them be a better example for us.
I have to agree with Samuel and Courtney. The more our generation is, the new generation is more involved in programs like 4-H, the better our future will be.
Oshe?
I agree. I believe that we have come through a time of recession, so we've seen the worst. However, I think that they should put it more in education.
Guys, thank you so much. This has been really great. Courtney, Samuel, Alexander, Oshe, I appreciate it. We also thank Sarah Cochin and Marshall Stewart for their help in putting it together. You've heard our spin on the issues of the day. Next week, we go back to our regular format. Be sure to go to our website, ncspin.com, read our columns, and by all means, wherever you go, stay informed and watch out for the spin.
Join us next week and get the spin on issues facing our state.